Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do my monthly reading wrap up for April 2024 and a channel update. And I will start with the channel update. Now, if you've followed my channel for any length of time, you will probably have noticed that I have completely disappeared off the face of the earth apparently for the last 6 months, since the end of October, start of November last year. And the reason for this is, I'm not getting into exact details of course, but my personal life has not been very pleasant, let's say, and I've been pretty miserable for the last year. The last 6 months in particular have been particularly unpleasant, and I've not been particularly happy in general. However, things are improving, which I knew they would because I am still an optimist at heart and I still think positively about people and situations. And I knew things would improve, and they have just started to in the last few weeks, last month. So I think it's about time that I start making videos again because it's something that I've always enjoyed. And can I just say that I really appreciate the fact that I've had probably a dozen messages from different people on Goodreads saying basically that they hope that I'm okay, and am I still going to be making videos anymore because I am their favourite booktuber and they really appreciate and look forward to my videos. That means a lot, it really does. I mean, having some different people say, oh yes, you know, we've never talked before, yet I like your videos and I hope you make more of them. It means a lot, actually. I think that might mean more actually than if it's somebody I knew well, oddly enough, because people that I know well, people that I'm friends with, obviously I know they mean me well and want me to do well. Having people that I don't know particularly well saying it, it's more meaningful in an odd way. So I do appreciate them. For the record, I will be making monthly wrap-ups again. I will be trying to make reviews where I can, and that is all I'm going to say as far as I'm going to try and guarantee that I'll do monthly wrap-ups and some reviews. Other than that, I'm not saying I'm making any more videos other than that for now. Things are still not entirely easy at times, so I will make monthly wrap-ups and we'll see where we go from there, basically. Anyway, now we get on to the books. It was a good reading month. For the record, the previous 6 months have been terrible. I've read one book prior to this month in total, so yeah, it's going to certainly pick back up now. And the first book that I read this month was The Djinn Falls in Love and Other Stories, edited by Mahvesh, Murad and Shurin. Now, I saw this in a bookshop, hence the little Waterstones label there, and it looked interesting because of the some of the authors, and obviously it says signed by the author, which for the record is actually one of the editors. So I bought it, and then when I started reading it and went to Goodreads to mark down that I was currently reading it, I found out that apparently I'd read this before, 5 years ago, which I have absolutely no memory of. So blatantly, this book, for the record I did check, and I read it on ebook before, so I read it on my Kindle, had absolutely no effect on me and was completely forgettable. That was an ebook version, so I'm not entirely surprised. Ebooks have less of an impact on me, always have, which is why I still prefer physical books. And I'm glad I read it on physical because this was actually a lot more interesting in physical format, having the additional sensation of sitting there with a nice book and turning the pages. I think it really sticks with me more. And this is an interesting short story collection. It's all to do with the idea of the Djinn, or genie, as we often call them. It's the different ideas from different authors, and obviously different cultures, on how jinns or genies are used and how they can appear. Because of course, some of the people in this use jinns or genies as the traditional idea. Very sort of a mischievous spirit that grants wishes or helps people. Some of them are very much not that though. I mean, some of them seem almost more like demons, frankly, as we in the West would see them. So, it's an interesting collection. As always with short story collections, some of the short stories worked really well, some of them didn't. But it's got a varied collection of authors and a varied collection of viewpoints. So overall, I actually really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it because this is something a bit different, and it's sort of quite an interesting idea and a good concept for a short story collection. So I was actually quite impressed by this time around. I have no idea why the ebook made absolutely no impression on me. It's the fact that I actually forgot I'd even read it, but it's just one of those things. Anyway, on to the second book, which is Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the third book in the science fiction trilogy by him, the first of which is Children of Time, the second of which is Children of Ruin, both of which I've obviously read before, because obviously I wouldn't have read the third one otherwise. And the first book and the second were both amazing. This is mostly amazing. Now, it is just as well written as the previous books. It's got interesting ideas, interesting concepts. The prose, the writing itself is really well done. However, let's say the things that I can't talk about too much because they are the twists, therefore the plot spoilers, so I can't mention them. Those were done well, but the third elements to do with those that didn't entirely work with me, and I thought it was a bit like, really? That's the way you've gone? Not exactly the most exciting. It's a bit of a anticlimactic sort of letdown, frankly, in some cases. So I was a bit disappointed with the ending, frankly. The other two had better endings and were stronger plotted. This felt a touch weaker in the overall sort of plot structure, which is a shame because the plot structure was really good. It's just compared to the other two though, which I can't help but do, it did feel a bit weaker. By itself, it's still a strong book, but obviously this is a third, so you've got to compare it to the other two, and it's definitely a little bit weaker. But it's third in the trilogy, so that can happen. But if you like the other two books, I'll definitely read it. I mean, I'm definitely very glad that I've read this, and in the future when I reread Children's Time, I will of course read all three books because they are a trilogy, they go and belong together. So I would recommend this if you've read the previous books because it's still worth reading. I mean, it might not be quite as strong as them, but not quite as strong as an amazing book, but just being slightly off is still quite a thing to say. Frankly, it's still an amazing book, it's just not quite as amazing as the previous two. Which is positive to me. The third book that I read was Galileos Dream, written by Stanley Robinson. Now this is physically, I think, the longest of the books that I read this month. This is closer to the 600 page mark, so reasonable length. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. Now at this point I'm reading Stanley Robinson's books because I've read the majority of them now and I'm trying to slowly work my way through reading everything by him. And then my friend Rachel is sort of doing the same over time. And this is definitely not my favourite of his. In this, it's about obviously Galileo, and it's an alternative sort of idea where, unsurprisingly, I mean it's science fiction, where you have basically an alien, another group of people on another planet taking Galileo away to help them with their problems, and they keep transporting him to them. He looks around on their planet and then he goes back to Earth to live his normal life, and it's an interesting concept and it is well written. But probably with this, and Robinson's done with this, which he has done occasionally with some of his other books, he's got the problem in this one where he's gone on a bit much about certain points to the point where it just feels like it's dragging, and you're just thinking can you go get on with the point and actually get to the book rather than going on about things that are not really that relevant or not that interesting. I mean, obviously you want to create world building, but not to the point where the story drags down and it's just this is just him doing a world building exercise that he probably enjoyed, but it's not that interesting. There were quite a few moments like that, so I'll say I liked reading the book, but it's not my favourite by him. I mean, if you haven't read anything by Stanley Robinson before, I'd say don't start with this one, frankly. There are much better books. I mean, his Mars trilogy, which I loved. I mean, they were where I started with him. They were still now fantastic, and they're actually even bigger than this, and they do contain more. Yeah, they don't drag like this one does. But it is worth reading if you like him. Stanley Robinson a lot, which obviously at this point I do. So if you like him, you know, you might want to get into that. The fourth book is Legends and Lattes, written by Travis Baldree. This is a fantasy novel, and this is very much using ideas from Dungeons and Dragons and computer games, because the main character is a orc adventurer, the Tired, and she's fed up of being, you know, basically the muscle, the big, you know, sort of tank type character, you know, walloping people with a giant axe and all sword or whatever. And she now wants to have a sort of quieter life where she's not getting stabbed and permanently patched back up because she's got scars all over her arms and such. And she wants to have a quieter life, opening up a coffee shop in this town. Obviously, first though, she has to find somewhere to set up first, you know, premises. Then she has to actually make the coffee. She has to buy the machinery, and then she has to actually explain to people what coffee is, because nobody knows what coffee is, and why they would like to drink some in her shop. And it's just a nice, fun book. It's light-hearted, it's lightly written, but it actually has good characterisation. The characters all work together really well. It's well plotted, and it was just a light-hearted, fun book in between, frankly, other heavier books. And it was exactly what I needed when I needed it, and I will always appreciate it for that. There will always certainly be more books set in this world, I believe, and I believe there is going to be another book, a sequel to this, or prequel, I'm not sure, this year, I believe, which I will definitely be interested in. Well, obviously I'll wait till it's in paperback, because I prefer paperbacks. And I'll say this is a good fantasy, or high fantasy, actually, high fantasy, low stakes, good company. That's actually accurate, because it is just that. It's fantasy with some stereotypes in it, but with some twists and turns, and light-hearted, and it's just fun read, frankly. And I really enjoyed Legend of Lattes, and I would definitely recommend it. And now my book's going to fall over. The fifth and penultimate book that I read in April is The End of the World and Other Catastrophes, edited by Mike Ashley. This is one that I saw in a bookshop, not on the same visit as the first book. I only bought this literally a few weeks ago, and this is published by the British Library, and there is a series of these, I've learned, which I didn't realise when I saw this in the bookshop. Something about it, just the spine of it being just so like simple and red with the white wine, and then the cover, it just caught my attention for some reason. And this is a short story collection by science fiction classics, not necessarily science fiction classic authors. Some of the authors I've never heard of. It does indeed end on a short story by Ray Bradbury, but most of the others I haven't actually heard of, or only vaguely heard of the name. For some reason it rings a bell, but I don't know why. And I really enjoyed the fact that I didn't know the authors, because I actually loved this short story collection, and indeed I've actually bought more of these short story collections to read. All of them are themed around certain ideas. You know, this one is obviously apocalyptic tale. There is a Mars type one. There is one to do with AI, and so on. And this one is particularly good, and it's just nice because the short stories all of them have a preface or introduction by Mike Ashley, the editor, and he's explained why he's included each short story and what it means to him, and a little bit about each author himself, and that really helps. Actually, he's said one thing. I mean, he's edited this, and this is one of the best collections I've read in years, especially with the actual editing stuff. Mike Ashley, he's done a very good job with explaining why he's done what he's done and why it's in this order for. And it works really well. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it'd be reasonable, but this was actually a lot more meaningful and a lot more enjoyable than I thought. And I really enjoyed this. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, I'd say definitely recommend it, because it was, I mean, obviously the tales are post-apocalyptic, so, or apocalyptic in some cases, the apocalypse is still in the process of happening, but they are really interesting ideas, well written, and because some of the authors are authors that might have only done a few stories here or there at some point, 50 years ago or so or more, it's got different viewpoints than what we would traditionally expect from the mainstream science fiction nowadays. These are odd points of view, actually, which I appreciate. You always want new points of view, new viewpoints, because it just brings something new and fresh to your reading. And I really enjoyed this, and I really would recommend it. And finally, the last book is a reread, and that is The Beekeepers Fenes by Laurie R. King. This is the first book in the Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes mystery series. Basically, it's taking the idea of Sherlock Holmes and doing something completely different with it, where this time they're making it so the idea of Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, in this, Conan Doyle actually does exist within this world. He's just basically, in Sherlock Holmes' words, kind of a bit of a literary hack that just so happens to have fit up some of his cases and made money off them. And this is the real Holmes, obviously in his words, not this literary, fantastical version that Conan Doyle's written, which he doesn't hold in high regard. And basically, in this first book, at the start of this book, he bumps into a young girl by the name of Mary Russell, unsurprisingly, and he realises that basically she has the same kind of mind as him. She's very analytical and uses deductive reasoning, and I'm not a Sherlock Holmes fan, by the way, particularly, but I do like this series. I have read the first 14 books, I think it is, about 5 years ago now, and at this point now I've got about at least 4 new ones that she's written in this world. So frankly, I'm going to do a reread of this series overall, month for month, and so in about 5 months, when I've caught up to where I've got to previously, I'll then read for the first time the new ones. So this is a well written, fun with dark moments mystery series. Obviously it's Sherlock Holmes, a different take on it, and yeah, if you say that your cup of tea, then I would recommend it, because it is well written and they are really good books. These have been some of the best mysteries I've read in recent years, and I'm really glad that I'm rereading it. And frankly, I also like the designs of the books as well. Each book has got a different colour. So like this is obviously orange, Beekeeper, honey, I assume, with a picture on the front like that looks as if it's been sort of almost stuck on. And all the books are like this, with different colours, different pictures. And I think it looks right for the series. And overall, I have really enjoyed these books. Now, if you have read any of these books, which I'm currently trying to pick up because they fell into a big heap on my chair here, or you would like to read any of them, then please leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions for books that you think I might enjoy based on any of these, then again, you leave a comment, because as always, I'm always interested in reading new authors, new genres, subgenres, or whatever else. And with that, I will call it a day. I will obviously put all the links for these books I'm going to read in the description box below. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching. I will finally after my 6 month gap. See you next month. Bye for now.